The topic at hand is a topic which I think on one hand is both, thank you, is relevant, Birkat Torah, and also Lamdish, so it'll be fun, Bezrat Hashem. I would like that the words of Torah that we're going to share together now be in the merits and to the Ilui Nishmat Tzila Gez, who was the woman who was murdered last night on her way to give birth in the Shamron. Her husband was wounded as well. He's reached the hospital, and they're fighting to save right now the life of the baby. So, she was murdered by Rishai Marurim, by terrorists, Ymach Shmam. And may the words of the Torah that we share right now be Ilui Nishmata. Rav Gav, I found the Ravush. Because I tied it in. I'll try to say something about it. The source for Birkat Torah, and source number one, Minyan le Birkat Torah lefanea min Torah, shneimar ki Shem Hashem ekra v'gadol Elokeinu. The Pashtus is that Birkat Torah is Yeshivat Orayta, Minyan le Birkat Torah lefanea min Torah. There are some Rishonim, some people say that they might hold Dirabbanan, but the Pashtus says D'Oraisa. And the Pasuk says, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, when I meet HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or when I meet HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Torah, Havu Godol Elokeinu, I praise Hashem. When I'm meeting the Torah, I have to give thanks, or something, I have to take a bracha. So there are two brachot, of course, min Torah. Brachot in general, midrabanan, everybody knows that you can perform a mitzvah without the bracha, you've performed the mitzvah. There are discussions about the Bapashas, that's a pshat. I can wear tzitzit, I can put on tefillin, I can sit in the sukkah without making a bracha, and I perform the mitzvah. I've missed out on making the bracha. Brachas are generally drabanan. There's different categories of bracha. Bracha says drabanan. But there are two brachot in Kain, therefore, that are deoraisa, and those two brachot are benching, Birkat Hamazon, and Birkat Torah. So apparently these are the two brachot min Torah. Benching and Birkat Torah. That was a drabanan. Very good. Now, let's look at source number two. Source number two is also in Bar and Brachot. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Hishkim Lishonot. If a person wakes up early and he wants to learn Torah, Ad shelo kara Kriyat Shema tzarich levarech. If he hasn't said Kriyat Shema, he has to make a bracha, Birkat Torah. Mishekara Kriyat Shema, but if he's already said Kriyat Shema, eino tzarich levarech shekvar niftar ba'avar rabba. We know that there are elements in the bracha of Avar Rabba, the bracha that you make before Kriyat Shema, but you have elements of Birkat Torah in it. There's words over there which speak about learning Torah. So the Gemara tells us that if you haven't said Birkat Torah and you've davened and you said Avar Rabba, that can be a stand-in. The Avar Rabba can act as a Birkat Torah. But if you haven't davened yet, you haven't said Avar Rabba, you haven't said Shema Mimela, you haven't said Avar Rabba, tzarich levarech. So the Gemara tells us something very important. You shouldn't learn Torah before you make this bracha, Birkat Torah. It's forbidden. Avar Rabba acts as the replacement, but lechatchila you shouldn't make a bracha. You can't learn before you make a bracha. No, there's different categories of brachot. If I was to ask you based on this Gemara right now, what type of bracha is Birkat Torah? The answer is? Who said that? Is that the pshat? You really think so?
Yeah. Such a good time in Yeshiva. He loves
that. I mean, it's a very interesting thing that you've that was not the answer. I might address it later on. It's very interesting that you said that right now, Birkat Nanin. Right? It's very interesting you said that. But I'm going to go with Birkat HaMitzvah. I'll go back to your point. I was not expecting that, but I will address it later on. Right? Ariel, why do you think that's the Birkat HaMitzvah?
Make a bracha and then you do the mitzvah.
Right? We know that there's a rule when it comes to Birkat HaMitzvah. It has to be what? Over. Le'a. Who said that? Very good. Guys, he's saving your tuchas. Right? Over le'asiyatan. The bracha has to be prior to doing the mitzvah. If you do the mitzvah and you haven't said the bracha, you've lost the bracha. The bracha is if you said immediately before doing the mitzvah. That's why tonight, after Shkia, you don't say, hey, it's like Bomer tonight. Because, you can't make the bracha anymore, it's for summer. Because you've lost the bracha. Okay, there's different, the Pnei Halacha means a couple of options in how to get over it. And you say, one of the options is dafka, if you said that it's like Bomer without the weeks, and maybe that's counted, because you haven't counted properly. I'm not discussing that right now. But you understand the concept, right? That's why we take lulav, right? When you shake lulav, what do? You hold lulav, there are different ways to do it, but some people say you hold the esrog upside down, make the bracha and flip it. Why? If you pick a lulav and esrog without doing the bracha, you fulfill the mitzvah. Can't make the bracha anymore. The bracha has to be done prior to doing the mitzvah. So it makes sense to say that why does Rabbi Yehuda Mashmuel say Shkim Lashonot Shlo Karak Tzman Tzich Levarach? Because it's the Birkat mitzvah. You shouldn't learn Torah before. You shouldn't learn Torah before making the bracha. Make the bracha immediately before learning Torah. Birkat mitzvah. That's lichor the Pashup Pshat. However, the Gemara continues the following. Amar Rav Huna. Mikra tzarich levarech. First of all, the Gemara brings a discussion. What requires a Birkat Torah? What type of learning? And there's some books here in this basement which probably doesn't require Birkat Torah. Lemikra tzarich levarech. Lemidrash eno tzarich levarech. Or Mikra requires requires a bracha, Medrash not. Rabbi Lazar Amar Nikam Midrash tzarich levarech, lemishnah ain't tzarich levarech, mishnah not. Rabbi Amar lemishnah tzarich levarech, Talmud ain't tzarich levarech, Rabbi Amar Talmud tzarich levarech. Whole discussion, Mikra, Medrash, Mishnah, Talmud. We pass in everything, including Talmud, Baruch Hashem. But that's an interesting discussion, which I'm not going to go into right now at depth. The second discussion is the nusach, the format of the bracha. My mevarech, Amar Rav Yehuda Mashmuel, Asher kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Hashem commanded us to be engaged in Torah. Rabbi Yochanan Mesayim Yachi. Rabbi Yochanan katuv with this bracha. Harav Hashem Elokeinu nivrei Torah b'finu. B'fiyot amcha b'it Yisrael. V'nei anacha v'tzetzeinu v'tzetzei amcha b'it Yisrael. Kol ha'nei d'shmecha v'oskei Toratecha. Baruch Hashem Elokeinu Torah Yisrael. You guys are familiar with this bracha as well. We want the Torah to be sweet. V'Rav Nuna ma'asher b'chabanu mikolamim tananu Torato. Baruch Hashem noten Torah. Amar Rav Nuna zoi mulo shebachot. The last one's the best one. Okay. Hilkach le'mer l'kula. Therefore, we should say all of them. There's different nuschaot. There's different formats, and that's what we do today. We, in fact, today we do all the different. But that's what we did Birkat Torah in the morning. We see all of them. Who can ask me 2 questions on this Gemara if this is Birkat mitzvah? Yes.
Why are we scared?
Start with the second question.
Why are we not scared of bracha with all of you? We're saying like 5 different do something the same bracha.
No.
Why would you just pick one and choose? That's not how we do it.
No, because the Gemara, apparently the Gemara understands. The Gemara assumes that each bracha pod might possibly reflect a different element, a different aspect. They're all important. Said the Gemara, that I'm not scared about.
But then why doesn't it say that? Why doesn't it say, all these are different ways of doing it? All these are valid ways of doing it. It says all these are different ways.
We do that. We do that sometimes. Sometimes we do all the brachot together. It's not the first time. I don't think that doesn't bother me, Dafka. That doesn't bother me. But I want to ask, but based on these 2 paragraphs over here, the second 2 paragraphs in source 2, if it's Birkat mitzvah, can you ask me any questions? Does nothing bother? Yes.
Why do we do it only once? Why don't we do it every single time?
Okay. So that's the third question, not based on the Gemara, but I'm going to get to that. That's the question I'm going to begin with. All right, so Ragel already answered a different question. He asked the question not based on the Gemara. Well, it says, hang on a minute. Every time we learn, we're not, like you have morning seder. Everybody comes to morning seder. Then you go eat lunch, and you go to the gym. You come back to afternoon seder. You don't make another bracha. That's your question.
Yeah.
Okay, so that doesn't come from the Gemara here, but that's a good question. I want to address that first. But simply in the second paragraph, right? Yes. Okay, so see, I was right. I'm going to the second question first, right? The third paragraph of your Mai Mevarech. Most of these brachot, there's 3 options of. Your only one of them says Asher Kedeshanu Mitzvah Tzivanu. We know that the classic format of a Birkat mitzvah is Asher Kedeshanu Mitzvah Tzivanu. But that's not what the other 2 brachot say. V'harevna Asher B'charbanu. That's not the format of Birkat mitzvah. That's very strange if those are the brachot, number 1. Number 2, what about the discussion over here? Mikra, Medrash. I don't understand. Does anybody here doubt that if you learn Mikra, you're not fulfilling mitzvah Talmud Torah? If you're learning Talmud, you're not fulfilling mitzvah Talmud Torah? If it's a Birkat mitzvah, what's the machloket about? Well, there's something that is a mitzvah, something that's not a mitzvah. It doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. So there's two questions which I'm asking on the Gemara here, but I'd like to begin with Rogal's question first. Okay, right? But I want to sharpen a question. All right, because give me one word. In one word, what's the situation you described? The situation where there is a hefsek. Thank you very much. Hefsek. Now, you need to know, in the world of hefsek, there's really two types of hefsek that we can speak about. Two types of hefsek when we talk about the world of Birkat mitzvah. The first hefsek is when you make a bracha before the mitzvah, and then you wait until there's a gap, there's a lapse, there's a space of time or something else between the bracha and the performance of the mitzvah. Okay, you guys understand? There's a hefsek. Hefsek means there's a break. Lahafsik, there's a break. I make the bracha on lulav, and then I mess around for half an hour, and then I shake the lulav. That's a hefsek. That's one type of hefsek that we can speak about. The other type of hefsek is not so much hefsek. The Rishonim use the terminology hefsek, but it's not really a hefsek. It's more a hesech hadas. For example, I began to do the mitzvah, and then I concluded the mitzvah. I finished. I'm concluding the mitzvah. And then I pick up again. And then I pick up again. In other words, I made the bracha, I did the mitzvah. Mitzvah's over. As far as my mindset is concerned, I'm done. And then later on, I do the mitzvah again. Do you have to make a bracha the second time? Yes or no? You guys understand the reality? I perform the mitzvah, finished. 2 hours later, do the mitzvah again. Do I make another bracha? Of course. Give me an example. What? You do that? Every time you learn Torah, you make a new bracha during the other day? Chas v'shalom. No. If you die. Sukkah. What? You go to Sukkah in the morning at breakfast? Leishe b'sukkah. 2 hours later, you have a snack? Leishe b'sukkah. All the time. I'll give you an example. Just to show you that it's dependent on your mindset. If you conclude the mitzvah. You're davening, you start taking off your talis. Because you gotta go leave and run to work. Lo yadama. So you start taking off your talis. They call you up, you're getting an aliyah. You put your talis back on. Do you make a bracha? Yes or no? Yes. Because in your mindset, you finish the mitzvah. That's halacha. You have to make a bracha again. Suppose you're in the middle of davening, you have to go to the bathroom. So you take your talis out, go to the bathroom. Do you make a bracha again afterwards? No. Because in your mindset, you're still doing the mitzvah. Do you guys understand? So there's two types of hefsek that we were talking about. One hefsek is between the bracha and the performance of the mitzvah. And the second hefsek is not really a hefsek, but rather your mindset, I concluded the mitzvah. Every time you do a new mitzvah, you make a new bracha. So far, so good? Yafek. Okay. Tosfot in source number 3 asks on both of these types of hefseks. Let's see source number 3. Source number 3, Tosfot, Mesech Rosh. Kfar nifta b'avar haba, dilkach limir lekul. B'Yerushalmi yesh. Tosfot goes to Yerushalmi. Had amrin shekvar niftar b'avar haba, v'hu sheshana al atar. It only works if you learn straight away. Al atar means immediately. Shana means you learned. Perush la'alter immediately shalamad miyad be'oto makom. Yerushalmi tells us that the Birkat Hatorah only works if you learn straight away after you make the bracha. Note the example of the Yerushalmi was specifically in Avar Haba. So we'll note that in a minute. V'nish'al Rav Yitzchak, kegon anu, he was asked, she'ein anu lomdim miyad lachar tfilat hashachar. In those days, the minhag was, and I'll tell my shiur, it's so interesting to learn Gemara from the Rishonim, because certain things that we do today, which is accepted, we just think that's the way things were done. It's not true. When you learn the Gemara and the Rishonim, you find things were not always done the way we do it today. And I always find it interesting to see how things developed. So he says that they, apparently in the time of Yitzchak, Baalei Tosfos, they would say Birkat Torah. What do we do today after Birkat Torah? We say what? We say some psukim, we say a mishra, we say a braita, nachon? You guys with me or not? Yeah? They didn't do that. They davened, and then he says the following. We would say Birkat Torah, then we davened, and we don't learn straight away. Shano Trudin, because we're busy. Volchim kach belo limud ad emtza yom yoter. In those days, they would daven, they would say Birkat Torah and daven, and then they run to work. They wouldn't get to the base medrash nebech till later on in the day. So they don't understand. We should make a bracha to Torah again because we didn't learn anything the first time. The Yerushalmi just told us that after you make the bracha, you have to learn, but we don't do that. When we make the bracha, we daven, we go to work, and only 7 hours later we learn. Shouldn't we make a bracha because we didn't learn straight afterwards? There was a hefsek between the bracha and the learning. That's very interesting. The first option of the Tosfos is what? Machlokes Bavli Yerushalmi. That's the first option. The Yerushalmi says that, not the Bavli. Says I don't remember seeing this in the Bavli. Says Tosfos. So apparently, says Tosfos, we don't hold like this Yerushalmi. The requirement to learn immediately after you make the bracha is a Yerushalmi requirement. We don't hold of that. So no problem. We make the bracha and we daven and we go to our whatever our business and we learn afterwards. No problem. You don't have to have that requirement. The second option is, well, maybe there's no machloket, but note he says, notice Yerushalmi, he points out, was referring dafka to Avar Rabba. That's not the main Birkat Torah. The Ikar Avar Rabba lekret shma nitkan. The main bracha of Avar Rabba is not about Birkat Torah. The main bracha of Avar Rabba is for Kriyat Shema. It has elements so it can replace Birkat Torah. The only way to have Avar Rabba activated as a Birkat Torah is if you learn. And then it can activate Birkat Torah, because then it's sort of, you're manifesting itself. It becomes clear that, you intend to be Birkat Torah. The Gamlo says sechadat, you don't have to change your mind from it. So also the second option is that there's no machlokes bab Yerushalmi. If you want to have Avar Rabba as the bracha, then you would have to learn. But otherwise, the regular standard Birkat Torah, you really don't have to learn. So far, so good regarding the first question. Yes?
Doesn't Kriyat Shema count as learning Torah?
Beseder, no. So in Achinami, so if Yerushalmi works, that would probably work for the Yerushalmi. Maybe Yerushalmi was talking about a situation that you didn't say Shema right for Abraham. It's a good question, and that's what it appeared to me. Kach nirali. It's a good point. Unless you could say since it was said for a matter of tefillah, it doesn't have the status of Talmud Torah. That's also an interesting thing. It could be interesting. Yafeh. So Tosfot here so far then has addressed the first type of hefsek. There's a hefsek between the bracha and the performance of the mitzvah. Based on the Yerushalmi that says you should learn straight away. And he has two options. Option 1 and option 2. Option 1 is that the Yerushalmi and the Bavli machloket. We don't care if that's hefsek. There's no big deal. It could work anyway. And the second option is that only for Avar Rabba you need to learn, but not for anything else. Right? So either there's no need at all, or the need is only for Avar Rabba. Okay. Then Tosfos continues to ask a second question. This is the other type of hefsek. This is the second type of hefsek, right? What we termed as when your mind is, as far as you're concerned, you concluded the mitzvah. That's what we said before. Every time you eat in the sukkah, you make a bracha. Every time you eat in the sukkah, you make a bracha. The fact that you made a bracha in the morning, and then there was a hefsek, in other words, what I call a conclusion of the mitzvah. If you do the mitzvah again, you have to make another bracha. So what bothers Tosfot? That's what we said before. What bothers Tosfot? That what? Do you learn morning seder, and you make a bracha, and then what? You learn afternoon seder, and what? Do you make a bracha? No. What happened? Why is it a new mitzvah? Why should you make a new bracha? Rabbi said the answer to Tosfos right now is a world famous answer, right? If you don't know this Tosfos, say you came from Esther and Nativ, from Eretz. Fine. The Yesh Lomar. Oh no, oops! I was just captured on camera. Right? I didn't say that. Okay. The Yesh Lomar. The Shani Torah, guys, the world famous Tosfos. Shani Torah she'ena miyash daito. Torah is different than any other mitzvah. You never give up. Dekol sha'a adam michuyav lilmod. Every hour a person is committed to learn. Dichti vegita b'yamani. You should learn Torah morning and night. Vavi kmo yoshev kol yom b'lo hefsek. As if that every day you're sitting and learning without any hefsek. Aval achila b'suki shakavah. When you come to eating, it's only specific times. Rabosai says, Toysa is a geshmak answer. Do you understand? You have his answer. If you eat in the sukkah in the morning and you say leishev, you're done. In the afternoon, it is absolutely a new mitzvah. Torah, you learn morning seder. You even, Nebuch went to the gym. And you come back on time for afternoon seder. At any moment, will you stop thinking about Torah? No. Because the whole day is one long learning episode for Yid. Eino miyash. You're thinking about it all the time. Even though you may be engaged in such mundane activities such as eating and drinking or running to the gym. But still, in your mindset, you're still engaged. The whole day long Yid is engaged in Torah. So when you make a bracha the first time, it works the whole day. Because it's one long happy mitzvah. You don't, remember what I said before? It depends on when your mindset, when you're finished, right? Like I said, the talis. If I'm taking off the talis, I'm thinking I'm done with the talis. Nobody thinks you're done learning Torah. You're never done learning Torah. So it's a new, it's one long mitzvah. Geshmak nachon, yafeh. So that's how he answers the second problem. Why don't we make a new bracha every day? 2, 3, 4 brachas every day, every time we learn? It's one long happy learning. Then the Tosafot concludes, goes back to the first one. Vatso fatim nahagu, the French. Where's the French? Is he here? Nebuch. All right? Tell me, if you're French in yeshiva, we're going to notice that if you're not here, okay? All right? Vatso fatim. By the way, if Tosafot here is quoting the Fatim, that means the Bali Tosafot is German. Right? These are German Tosafists writing right now. והצרפתים נהגו לומר פסוקים בברכת כהנים וגם אלו דברים שאין להם שיעור שהיא משנה ואלו דברים שאדם אחר פרטיהם וחושי ברייתא מפני ירושלמי דבית שלמוד על אתר. Both said that's a source for our minhag. So I said before, isn't it fun to find the sources? This is our minhag is based on the Tzorfatim. Our minhag that we say Birkat Torah and then we say psukim, Birkat Kohanim, and Edim Shenem Shiur, this is the source. The French Tosafists instituted that. Why? Because what? The Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi said you have to learn straight away. That's why we say these psukim and this mission of Braita every morning after Birkat Torah, because of the Tzorfatim, because of that Yerushalmi that required you to learn straight after the bracha. But concludes the Torah. So but I don't think you need to do it. Rabosai. Until this point, does Tosfos think that Birkas Hatorah is a Birkas mitzvah? The answer clearly is yes. 1,000%. Tosfos clearly thinks the Birkas a mitzvah, and because the Birkas a mitzvah, he's bothered by what he's bothered by. Because of Birkas a mitzvah, he doesn't understand. How could there be a hefsek between the bracha and the learning? Do you need to learn straight away? How can it be that if you learn it 2 separate times, you don't make another bracha? How you concluded the first time? No, it's one long learning. All these questions and his answers clearly indicate that Tosfot is convinced it's a Birkat mitzvah, otherwise he wouldn't have asked those questions and provided those answers. However, there are Rishonim who apparently are so bothered by these questions that they couldn't grasp Birkat Torah as a Birkat mitzvah. Look at the Rabbeinu Tam, source number 4. Now, source number 4 is the same Tosis. You see 3 lines to the bottom of the source number 3. There's 3 dots. That's where the Rabbeinu Tam is mentioned. I cut it out from that and I'm putting it over here right now because Rabbeinu Tam thinks otherwise. Look at Rabbeinu Tam. Vayomer Rabbeinu Tam. K'shadam omen mimitato b'layla. If a person goes k'shlufins at night, and then he wakes up in the morning before davening, the middle of the night, 3, 4 in the morning, before Alos HaShachar, l'ilmod t'shtaik Torah. Why else would you wake up early? Shtaik Torah. When you make Birkas Torah, today is Thursday. You're going to go to Shluf, you wake up at 3 o'clock tonight to learn Torah. Says Rabbeinu Tam, you have to make a bracha. No bracha. You geshluft a good couple of hours, you don't have to make a bracha. The bracha from this morning will act to then. Says Tosfos v'lo nihira. I don't get it. Makes no sense. Why is Tosfos bothered? Why does Tosfos not agree with Rabbeinu Tam? No, wake up and smell the hummus. Why? Because who said that? Can you hear? What?
Shama said it.
Who?
Shama.
Nachon. It's hefsek in what type of bracha, Shama? In this hefsek, what type of bracha? Birkat a mitzvah. What? Tosfos says geshlofens at night. That's not a hefsek. Of course it's a hefsek. Tosfos says I don't get it. You said a bracha in the morning. You went to sleep at night. You wake up again. Tell me what's a bigger hefsek than that? Obviously, you need to make a new bracha. But Rabbeinu Tam didn't agree. What did Rabbeinu Tam think? What type of bracha is Birkas Hatorah? Birkas New, wake up and smell the matbucha. What type of bracha is it? Birkas what? New guys, come on. What categories of bracha you're aware of? What? No. Who said that? Birkas HaShevach. Ariel, very good today. Excellent. Birkas HaShevach. Rabosai, when we say brachas in the morning, Malbish Arumim, Pokeach Ivrim, every morning you say those brachas, even if you didn't sleep the night before. Birkas HaShevach, these are Birkas HaShevach, we're praising God. Shevach is to praise. That's another category of brachas. There's a bunch of there's different categories. Birkas HaShevach is to praise God. Birkas HaShevach you have to make every single day, no matter what was yesterday. Each morning generates a new Birkas HaShevach. So just like Birkas HaShachar, you make the Birkas HaShevach every single morning, no matter what was during the day before. So you have to make a new Birkas HaShevach. But if it's not morning yet, it still goes after the previous day. And that's the case of Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam says it's not morning yet. There's no new chiyuv. Clearly, Rabbeinu Tam thought the Birkas Torah is a Birkas HaShevach. The morning will generate a new Birkas HaShevach, but until the morning, it still goes on to the previous day. Clearly, that's what Rabbeinu Tam thinks. Turn the page. Look at the Ramban. The Rambam is very interesting. The Rambam clearly thinks you have to make Birkas Torah. In the Mishnah Torah, the Rambam brings on Birkas Torah. But in Sefer HaMitzvos, the Rambam did not list the obligation to make a bracha. That's why some people think that the Rambam thought it's midrabanan, for example. Anyway, says the Ramban in source number 5. So these are the sokas of the Ramban, shichachas asin. Everybody knows that the Ramban listed the mitzvahs that he thinks the Rambam forgot. Says the Ramban the following. Mitzvah tedvav. Shenitztaveinu lehodot lishmoit barach b'chol eit. We are commanded to thank Hashem at all times shenikra b'Torah, when we read the Torah, al tova gedolah she'asa lanu, on the great tova that he did for us. That he gave us the Torah and he told us what's good for us to do, that Hashem will not like. And by doing so, we'll get Olam Haba. Just like we're commanded Minat Torah. After Kol Achila, that's benching. Minat Torah. Just like benching is Minat Torah, so too this is Minat Torah. But look at the wording of the Ramban. The wording is L'hodot Lishmo Yitbarach. This is a Birkas HaShevach. We're thanking Hashem for the opportunity to study Torah, which will guide us in how to behave in our lives. So the Rabbeinu Tam and the Ramban clearly understood the bracha as a Birkas HaShevach. Now, if you hold the Birkas HaShevach, then all our questions on the Gemara brachas fall apart. Are there any questions, Rogal, right now about Hefsek and Birkas HaShevach? Any brachas? Any questions about that? Not at all. Hefsek becomes an issue if it's a Birkas HaMitzvah. But it's a Birkas HaShevach. There's no Hefsek involved, just praising Hashem for the Torah. Remember the first two questions? Why is there a machlokes on what you make a bracha, Birkas HaTorah on? Maybe, if it's a Birkas HaMitzvah, I argued, it's always a mitzvah. Whatever you're learning Torah is a mitzvah. Why should it be a machlokes? If it's a Birkas HaShevach, maybe some things you make Shevach, maybe some things not. I can see that. And the nusach of the bracha makes sense. The harivna, asher b'charbanu, that really sounds like a Birkas HaShevach. It makes so much more sense. So Rabbi said, before I take does anyone ask a question? No? All right, so Rabbi said, let's sum up what we've seen until now. What we've seen until now is that there's two ways to view Birkat Torah. The Gemara says, Birkat Torah is learned from Kishem Hashem Mekra Vogel Elokeinu. And there's two options to understand the nature of Birkat Torah. Option 1 Birkat HaMitzvah. And to that end, we have to ask ourselves, is there a problem with the hefsek between the bracha and the performance of the mitzvah? Would that generate a new bracha every time you learn again, because every time it's a new mitzvah? So these are issues that the Tosfos discussed, because Tosfos clearly understood that the Birkat HaMitzvah. The reason that we are knowing what we do today in the morning to say Elohim Shem and Shiur, the psukim, that's based on the Torah Fatim, based on Yerushalmi. That it should be learning straight after the mitzvah, should be no hefsek. The other option is Birkat HaShevach. And that's the Ramban in Asagas on the Mitzvahs. That's the Rabbeinu Tam and the Tosfos. Clearly learning Birkat HaShevach. Rabosai, I'd like to present right now another understanding of Birkat HaTorah of Reb Chaim, quoted in the Griz. Now, I'll say it out loud first of all. To be honest, I'm still struggling with this because I saw it quoted in a particular maimar, and I'm not sure if I agree. I'm not sure if it seems to me like it's a new category, not necessarily Birkas HaShevach. I found an article on which I'm going to quote later on about Birkas HaTorah. I think it's actually a new category, mamash a new category, and the category is this. I'll explain to you his svara. I'll explain to you where I think I brought some proofs for him, and then we'll read it inside. The category is this. Ready? It's not a full Birkas. It's not a Birkas HaMitzvah, definitely. It's not really even a Birkas HaShevach. It's a bracha on the chefza. That's the wording of Torah. When you meet Torah, you cannot but make a bracha on the chefza, on the body of Torah. It generates a bracha. It's certainly not a Birkat HaMitzvah. It may not even be your average. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not sure if this is part of Birkat HaShevach. I think it's almost a new category of bracha. A bracha on the chefza. When I meet HaKadosh Baruch Hu and meet His Torah, wow! I cannot fail but to make a bracha on such a thing. It's similar to Birkas HaShevach, but I'm not sure if it's the same. I'll bring the proofs so you'll understand a little bit more, and then we'll read it inside in source number 6. Let's see source number 7 first. There's 3 halachot I picked out of the Beis Yosef. Beis Yosef is, of course, a commentary on the Torah. Simon Mem Zayin is the Torah Shulchan Aruch on Birkas HaTorah. There's 3 halachot here in source number 7 which are very interesting. The first, Katav Agur. Agur is a 15th century halachic work. Shemishim, Rabbi Yaakov Landau, Shemishim Maher Belibot Torah Kodem Shebirach Birkat Torah Shapir Dami. If a person wakes up in the morning and he's thinking Torah thoughts, Shapir Dami means you don't have to make a Birkat Torah. The here lav kedibur dami dinam birkat b'chak when it's here lav kedibur. Here is thoughts. It's not like speaking. So if you guys wake up early in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, and the first thing you think about is not ridiculous discussion on the Cooper, Rabbeinu Cooper, who's this Cooper, B'shwooper, I don't know this guy is. So this guy, I literally have no idea what you're talking about, right? But I saw this good. Reb David called him Rabbeinu Cooper, Baruch Hashem, right? And maybe you guys, you're not thinking about Rabbeinu Cooper. You're thinking about Rabbeinu Tam, right? Oh. You're thinking about the shiur that you had last night, the Geshmak night, so you're lying in bed, you're just thinking about it. Geshmak. Do you have to make a Birkas HaTorah? No. What? Hold it. I think we could pause it if you're thinking Torah, lying in bed thinking Torah, are you fulfilling a mitzvah?
No.
I would say yes. I would say yes. You're not learning Torah thing yet, but it doesn't generate a bracha. Why? Maybe you could argue that it's not a mitzvah, that it is a mitzvah, but it's not a chefetz of Torah. It's too bodiless. It's not a chefetz. It's not a body of a text. It's not writing. It's not speaking. It's just thoughts. It's not a chefetz shel Torah. So it doesn't require bracha. Look at the second line. V'chatav od agur, another agur, b'shem Rimolin, that's a Maharil. That is a very interesting halacha. We paskin this. Women make Birkat Torah, but they're not obligated to study Torah. Now, this is a very interesting discussion. You guys all know there's a worldwide machlokes Ashkenazim Sfardim regarding mitzvah aseh shazman grama. Mitzvah shazman women are what? Pater. Women are pater. Men are exempt. Can a woman make a bracha on it? Yes or no? The answer is what? Machlokes. Ashkenazi women. Yes. Sephardic women? No. No. Right? You know, by the way, since when the time of the Sfira Sarman, that's a discussion halacha. Right? Because for sure women can perform a mitzvah as Shishman. For sure she can perform it. Right? Women like to sit in the sukkah. Women like to hear shofar. That's all zman grama. They're not chayiv and they all want to do it. Can they make a bracha? So as far as your woman, she's counts for Tomer, so she shouldn't count. She shouldn't make a bracha. Ashkenazi woman can make a bracha. And then the whole discussion I saw before in the beginning of halacha. Well, maybe she's going to forget because she doesn't go to Mariv. If you go, guys, remember that. What's the best way not to forget Sfar Somer? Go to Mariv. Go to Mariv. You don't be messed up Sfar Somer. But she'll go to Mariv, so maybe she'll forget. Maybe she shouldn't. And all these different chashashot. I'm not going to go there right now. So it's a machlokes. So the Ashkenazim say she can make a bracha, and the Sephardim say not. The Beis Yosef, the Sephardi, who paskins the Shulchan that women don't make a bracha on Zman Grama, nevertheless says a woman should make a bracha on Torah, Birkat Torah. What the heck? I don't understand. Zman Grama, she's not obligated in. She cannot make a bracha. Talmud Torah that we paskin, women can learn Torah, but they're not obligated. She does make a bracha. Why? What's the pshat? Chefetz Torah. A woman too meets a chefetz Torah. How can she fail to make a bracha when she meets a Kadosh Baruch Hu in the Torah? So she makes a bracha. Unbelievable. And then there's a third comment that the Beis Yosef makes in the same, it's all in the same siman. The third paragraph in source 7. V'zu nusacha. This is the nusach. Asher kedushem v'savet tzivanu al divrei Torah. Does Sfardim do that today? Any Sfardim here? Yeah. Is that the bracha al divrei Torah? Yes. Our token Sfardi today.
I had it open this whole time waiting for him to ask.
No, it's al divrei Torah mamash. Wow. Okay. I think I recollect hearing Shiur from my Aaron once about lasuk. Right, to be engaged, you guys have the Shiur with them this year, right? To be engaged, you're engaged in Torah. You don't learn Torah, you're engaged in Torah, right? But the nucha is al. Pashat sham v'katav harosh v'yesh b'kol shemim la'asok b'div Torah. The Rosh, the Ashkenazi, of course, came to Sfarad, became from Ashkenaz. La'asok Rabbeinu Yonah katav shemim zchodim b'diyakom et al divrei Torah. In proper text versions, it's al. So it's a machlokes. Is la'asok to be engaged in Torah or al on Torah? What's the pshat in al? La'asok means I'm engaged. What's al? The chefetz of Torah. You know what I'm saying? It makes sense. Now, to show you they didn't just make this up, look at source number 6. I photocopied from my Grizz because my response doesn't have the Grizz, so, and then I left a lot of space for it. But let's read source number 6. V'hinei kvar ikshu aha denashim mevarachos birkas haTorah. This is the issue that he asks about. Why do women make a bracha? V'apturus me Talmud Torah. They're exempt from Talmud Torah. That's what our question. The Rambam and the Sfarish Psak is that women cannot make a bracha on a Zman Grama. Says the Grizz, I don't understand. How can women make a bracha on Talmud Torah when they're exempt? Just like Lichara I would have said if they're potter, they cannot make a bracha on Zman Grama, they should not make a bracha on Talmud Torah. Why are they chayiv? V'shamati mipi Adoni Avi Moiri V'Rabi Hagon. Who's that? When the what? What? Reb Chaim. His father Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim. Reb Chaim. No, there's different Reb Chaim, right? Reb Chaim and Brisk, right? Hagon al Chassid Zok Tzelaha. What's Zok Tzelaha? Zeicher Tadik V'Kadosh L'Chai Elohelam Haba. Remember, guys, Zok Tzelaha. Okay. So the Grizz is quoting his Abba, Reb Chaim, She'amar de bebirkas haTorah, engna bracha al kiyum ha-mitzvah shel Talmud Torah. The bracha is in a birkas ha-mitzvah, on learning Torah. Rak tu din bifnei atzmo. Look at his wording. It's a lach in its own right. That's why I feel that it's sort of a new category. It's definitely not a birkas ha-mitzvah, but it's not even regular birkas ha-shevach. The Torah by a bracha. Torah is about Udiafinu la bebrachas dav kafalef mikra dichi shem Hashem akrav v'gadol keinu. That's the source we brought. Udiafinu la bebrachas kaf. Sorry. Im kein ein zedin sheshach lemitzvah klal. It's nothing to do with the mitzvah. Right? And you don't make a bracha on Torah because of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. If that was true, women would couldn't make a bracha. Right? The Torah atzma tu'una bracha. The Torah itself requires a bracha. V'nashim p'tur s'marak meha mitzvah shalman. Women are exempt from the mitzvah. Women aren't exempt from meeting the chefetz of Talmud Torah, the body, the phenomena of Torah. V'limudam avichal Talmud Torah. And when they learn, that's Talmud Torah. And of course they should make a bracha. And like we said, once you say Birkas HaTorah, isn't just a mitzvah, Birkas HaMitzvah, and maybe not a regular Birkas HaShavach, but it's a bracha on the Chefetz of Torah, then all the halachas and source number 7 makes sense. You wouldn't make a Birkas HaTorah on something abstract like Yerhur, like thoughts. Women, like we just said right now, both in the Ugur and the Griz, would make a bracha even though they're not obligated, because it's not a Birkas HaMitzvah. It's a bracha on the Chefetz, and the bracha is Al Divrei Torah, on the Chefetz of Torah. On the last page, this article is referencing earlier. There's Rav Soloveitchik, Rabbi Yosef Dov, the Rav, used to give a series of Yartzeit Shiurim. They were very well, there's stories about these. He spoke for hours, half in halacha, half in agada. People were mesmerized. And some of these shiurim, just a few, were printed up. And I have a book at home called Shiur L'Zicha Abba Mori, Shiur in Remember of My Father. And he has an article there on Birkas HaTorah. So I was looking through it. So he adds two more elements to the bracha, really. Really one element which is divided into two elements. A bracha kematir. A matir. Have you heard this far before? The briskers love this. In the world of brisk, every bracha was like a matir. What's a matir? Lahatirs permit. You cannot do certain things before you ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak. Okay? For example, you're not the Gemara says, Kol enenem yolam hazeh b'lo bracha ki lo ma'al. And this is where Brandon starts coming into play. Right? The Birkas Hanenin. Okay? I told you I'd get back to you, okay? All right? Birkas Hanenin. That's pashut, that's a matir. It's a brisker term, right? A matir. But for sure that's what Birkas Hanenin is. Because the Gemara says, you want to eat that apple? It's not yours. Say Eibishter's. You want to eat that apple? Say a bracha. You need something to matter you to eat the bracha. You need something to allow you to eat the bracha. That's what a bracha does. So look at the Rambam in source number 8. The Rambam makes a very interesting comparison. Umidivrei soifrim, rabbinic halacha, nevarech al kol ma'achal techila v'achar kach yenem mimenu. Midivrei soifrim, before you eat, you make a bracha and then you enjoy it. V'chol eneh b'lo bracha ma'al, like we just said right now. If you enjoy food without making a bracha, ma'al is mi'ila. I can't even think what mi'ila is in English. Is there a fancy word in English, mi'ila, for bringing? I don't know. You're stealing from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I can't think of a word like that in English. What? Maybe, I don't know. You're stealing. But then the Rambam writes, Ukeshein shemavarchim al hanaya, kach mevarchim kol mitzvah mitzvah chakech seotza. What does the Rambam write? Just like you make a birkas hanenin, otherwise you're stealing from Hashem, so too, you have to make a birkas ha-mitzvah. What's the Rambam implying? That a birkas ha-mitzvah is also a, what word? Who's that? Matir. That's what the Rambam implies. That a birkas ha-mitzvah is a matir, just like birkas hanenin. Unbelievable. Just like you can't eat an apple to Kadosh Baruch Hu's, you can't do a mitzvah. Who are you to perform mitzvahs? Crazy thing I just said right now, right? It's not an easy thing to say what I just said right now. Kadosh Baruch Hu commanded us to do mitzvahs. Of course we do mitzvahs. You have to make a bracha, so to speak. I'm not saying it's an easy concept to grasp. But then the Rav made another leap, and he said the following. Just a minute. If Birkas Hanenin is a matir, and the Rambam does seem to imply, I think it does seem to imply, I agree with the Rav, source number 8, I agree, the Rav doesn't need my approbation, but the source number 8, it does seem to be that Birkas Hanenin is a matir like Birkas HaMitzvah is a matir like Birkas HaMitzvah. Then the Rav goes another step, hang on, if learning Torah is a mitzvah, then the Birkas HaTorah is also a matir. Who are you to study Kadosh Baruch Hu's Torah? It's Kadosh Baruch Hu's Torah. Crazy, isn't it? So he didn't quote this Gemara, but I found this Gemara in source number 9, which the Chara says this is very famous. Well, it's quoted in Rashi elsewhere. That's what made me think of it. But look at source number 9. Amar Rava, Lolam yilmod adam Torah b'mkom shel bo chafetz. That's a good muster for all of you when Bezrat Hashem Nebuch in 2 weeks ago you turned into pumpkins, right? in 2 weeks from now. A person should learn Torah from where his heart desires. Some of you will learn Gemara B'iyun, some will learn Gemara B'kiyas, some will Tanakh, Machshava, Halacha, Iyun B'kiyas. There's so much other Musar, Machshava, You have to be engaged in Torah in something that you enjoy. And my advice is, and I heard this from Rabbini years ago, start learning Torah something before you leave yeshiva. Don't wait till you land in America and say, what should I learn now? Start learning something here. If you haven't done Shtay Mikra, make sure you're doing Shtay Mikra. If you haven't learned 2 chapters of Tanakh a day, start doing 2 chapters of Tanakh a day. 2 Mishnayos a day. Start it now, and something that you connect to, something you enjoy, libo chafetz. When you land in America, just continue learning. It's got to be something that you connect to. She'ata mitchaber, libo chafetz. And then Amarava, B'tchila nikra Yisrael Shmo Shekadosh Baruch Hu Lebesov nikra Del Shmo. First Torah is the Kadosh Baruch Hu's, and then it's yours. Shneimar b'Torat Hashem chevtzo u'b'Torato yigel mal. Look at this. The pasuk says, Ki'im b'Torat Hashem chevtzo. A person desires Torat Hashem. Whose Torah is it? Hashem. U'b'Torato. Now you guys know this pasuk. In his Torah you should steig morning and night. Whose Torah? Torato is whose Torah? Your Torah. Is first Torah is the Kadosh Baruch Hu's, but when you steig Torah and you make a bracha first, whose Torah does it become? Yours. Geschmack. It's your Torah. It's your Torah. But what allows it to be your Torah? The bracha. Just like a person has to make a bracha before he eats, enjoys food, birkas hanenim, and just like a person makes a bracha before he performs a mitzvah, so too a person makes a bracha before he strikes Torah as a matir. And I found this quoted elsewhere. I was talking to Rav Gav yesterday. The source number 10, there's a crazy Levush. Levush is a commentary on the Shulchan Aruch. He says, when it comes to Birkat Torah, this I didn't have time. Rabbi said, this is scratching the surface of Birkat Torah, just because we can learn for a week or 2. Mamash. So first there's a famous discussion, is Birkat Torah 2 or 3 brachot? You guys are familiar. Is it harivna or vaharivna? With a vav or not without a vav? Is it 2 brachot or 3? Okay, not getting there right now, I don't have time. But the Levush writes the following, Achat Birkat HaMitzvah. One bracha of Birkat Torah is a class of Birkat Mitzvah. The wording of the text, the format of the text of Birkat Torah is what? The classic Birkat Mitzvah. Asher Kiddushan Mitzvah V'Tzivanu. Very nice. The Achat, you Birkat Hanenim. Brandris, you're the Vush. Call Brandris the Vush right now. Ki halimu du'ana. Is that crazy? He actually defines one of the Birkas Torah as a Birkas Hanenin. But it makes sense. That's like I can only way I can understand the Levush is the background of the Rav's Chiddush and the Rambam, right? That the Birkas Hanenin is a matir, Birkas HaMitzvah is a matir, Birkas Torah is a matir, and one of the Birkas Torah acts as the Birkas Hanenin because you're enjoying the Torah. It's unbelievable, right? Crazy stuff. One last element that the Rav speaks about, which I want to share with you, and that's Talmud Torah Ketfila. Talmud Torah like Tefillah. Look in source 11. The Rambam says the following: V'chein ein omdim litpalel lo mitoch schok v'lo mitoch kaladrosh lo mitoch sicha v'lo mitoch miriva v'lo mitoch kas. Person shouldn't daven from laughter, from lightheadedness, from conversation, from a fight, from anger. Mitoch divrei Torah. Person should be focused, get himself ready for Tefillah. Now the Rambam, there's different nuschot in the Gemara. There's a whole background to this halacha, but lo mishaneh. The Rambam could have thought of lots of things to get yourself ready for Torah. Maybe do this mitzvah, do that mitzvah. I don't do give tzedakah, ich weiß nicht. It's important that a person should daven from coming from learning Torah. Why? Why dafka learning Torah? So look at the Sefer Mitzvahs in source number 12. A mitzvah chamishit shetzivanu le'ovdo yit'aleh. We are commanded to be an Oved Hashem. To be an Oved Hashem. Nev'afal pi continues the Rambam shezat tzivu gam ken min hatzivim hakolim kol shubenu shorosh haravi. If you guys remember your shorashim and the root, the ground rules that the Rambam lays down, a mitzvah klali, the general mitzvah, is not counted as a mitzvah. Right? When Zohar says keep all the mitzvot, that's not a mitzvah. Right? So you don't count it. Yeshivat Orayta, the Rambam doesn't count because it's such a fundamental, basic mitzvah. You don't even count it because pashut that mitzvahs are meant to be kept in Eretz Yisrael. Pashut you're supposed to live in Eretz Yisrael. It doesn't even need to be counted. Pashut. Don't even give me lumdus. The Rambam is not so much a mitzvah klalit because it's something specific. What's that tefillah? We know that tefillah is avodah shebalev. Tefillah. V'lashon tzifil of those are tefillah. V'amru gam ken of those are talmud. There's two things which are an avodah. Tefillah and Talmud Torah. V'amru avdu b'torato avdu b'mikdasho. When a person be over Hashem specifically in your heart, by two different things. There is a link between Talmud Torah and Tefillah. When a person davens, that's avodah. When a person learns, that's avodah, and that's an element of tefillah. Because at the end of the day, the point is to connect to Kadosh Baruch Hu. When I'm davening, I connect to Kadosh Baruch Hu. When I learn Torah, how much more so? I'm learning Torah Hashem. That's why a person has to learn before he davens, because learning and davening are two sides of the same coin. They're avodah shabbat. Mimele, guess what? Tefillah also, to a certain extent, you need a matir. Go you to Parashat Kadosh Baruch Hu. So Rabbosai, then this is another element of Torah that the bracha falls into. The element of the aspect of combining Torah with Tefillah. So Rabbosai, let's try to sum up what we've done today. We've seen that Talmud Torah, the brachat of Talmud Torah, the bracha on Talmud Torah, we saw that many Rishonim say that the bracha is a mitzvah saseh, is a birkas mitzvah. And if it's a birkas mitzvah that was tosas and brachos, what bothered Tosfos was the hefsek element. The hefsek element only bothers you if it's a true birkas Torah. And we saw that Tosfos bothered by two elements of hefsek. The first and the second. Right. The first element was the gap between the bracha and the performance of the mitzvah. That's why the Tzor Fatim instituted what we do today, of having Torah, reciting Torah immediately after the bracha, the psukim of Birkat Kohanim and the Mishnah Orayta. That's where we get it from, to avoid that problem. Although the Tosfos, the German Tosfos, didn't think it's a problem. And the second element was the hefsek, which Rogal referenced earlier, that every time I study Torah, I don't make another bracha. Like in sitting in the sukkah when I do make another bracha. And here we answered to also the fundamental concept that a person never finishes learning Torah. It's one continuous happy mitzvah every single day. But this is a whole discussion, as we pointed out, is only if it's a Birkat mitzvah. The Ramban and the Rebbeinu Tam felt that it's a Birkas HaShevach. Memele, since it's a Birkas HaShevach, all the questions fall aside. The different nusach that we find in the Gemara makes more sense if it's a Birkas HaShevach. The discussion of the Gemara, we make a bracha, might make more sense. That's why that's why Rebbeinu Tam said that if you wake up to learn before Alos HaShachar, the previous day Birkas HaShevach still applies. If it was a Birkas HaMitzvah, I'm sure there's a hefsek, v'chulei. So that's a machlokes if it's Rebbeinu Birkas HaShevach or Birkas HaTorah. We then brought in Reb Chaim, quoted in the Griz, who said that it's just a new category entirely. It's a bracha on the chefza of Torah. It might not even be your average Birkas HaShevach. And because you say it's a bracha on the chefza of Torah, so other halachot make sense. A, we understand that you don't make a bracha when you're just meharher b'Torah, when you're just thinking Torah. It's not a chefza of Torah, even though it's a kiyum mitzvah. You're fulfilling a mitzvah, it's not a chefza of Torah. Women are obligated to make a bracha on Birkas HaTorah, even though they would not make a bracha according to the Sfarish custom, the Beis Yosef and the Shulchan Aruch, for mitzvah say she's Raman Grama, but on Birkas HaTorah they would, because it's still a meeting with a chefza of Torah. And that's why the bracha, according to Sfarish custom, is al divrei Torah, not lasok, but al. The bracha is on the Torah itself. So that was the Reb Chaim, another understanding and element aspect of the Birkas HaTorah. And we saw in Rav Soloveitchik adds further elements that just like Birkat Hanen and Birkat HaMitzvah is a matir, it could very well be that the bracha of Birkat HaTorah is also a matir. That's the thing, he learned that from the Rambam. We saw the Levush who says that one of the Birkat HaTorah acts as a Birkas Hanenin. That might be only understood if you look at it as, if you would maybe as a matir. We also understood the kasher, the connection between Talmud Torah and Tefillah. They're both avodah shebalev, and maybe Tefillah and Talmud Torah together we need that matir. You should be zoiche bezrat Hashem Rabbosai, lilmod ulalamed, to learn and to teach, to grow in Torah to the end of the year and onwards bezrat Hashem, and to appreciate Torah.